Yo, what's up, everybody? It's Drewberry, and with a new patch comes some new data mines. Let's go! It's that juicy time where we get to discover all the new cards that might come to Marvel Snap, or maybe will never make it to the game, or completely change an effect and stat line like Darkhawk did, okay? So you can't take these too seriously, but they're fun to speculate about. On the right here, I have this image that was pulled from marvelsnapzone.com. Go check them out. All these data mines were pulled from Snap.fan. Those are my two main resources. Excellent resources, highly recommend. This one right here, this is a sneak peek at the next season pass, okay? So it looks like our guy for the season pass is Modok, which is pretty cool. He looks really fun, interesting character, hilarious art. And then kind of like I predicted, I made a top 5 possible seasons in the next year based on Hollywood productions, movies, TVs. I guessed it would be this one, and I also guessed that Ant-Man and Wasp would be the two main characters based on the film coming in mid-February. Wasn't that crazy of a guess, but hey, here you go. Got some cool steampunk variants and portraits going on here, and then you got the two card backs there. The one Ant-Man one I'm kind of meh about, but the hourglass looks pretty cool. I'm down for that. Anyways, that's a little sneak peek at the season pass, but I'm using it to hide the cards right now because it's a bit of a spoiler warning. You don't know the details of what these cards do just yet, and if you don't want to, then leave the video now, but we're going to unveil what Modok does right this second. Boom, there's Modok. You probably already seen it. It's not that much of a spoiler. This data mine has been around since beta. It's been like one of the earlier data mines, and he's finally come to the game. So he's going to be the season pass card, which means we have to look at this in a little bit more detail. He is a 5 cost 8 power, so that's like your Black Bolt stat line, okay? So not usually enough unless the effect is worth it. The effect here is on reveal, discard your hand. That's pretty wild effect, you know. Discard decks want to discard from their hand to receive benefits. So if I can do some crazy discard on turn 5, that sets me up for a nice turn 6. All right, now I'm giving Modok 2 stars, but let me just put a little bit of an asterisk there that I think this could go to 3, and by the time he comes out, my opinion might have changed on this card. As I think about it more, there are quite a few combinations. For instance, I think a really nice line of play is playing Dracula on 4, Modok on 5 to discard your entire hand, and let's say it had some swarms and apocalypse in it, right? That'd be ideal. Then on turn 6, you can play America Chavez if you're running that deck to thin your deck out. Play all those swarms, and then Dracula will almost guaranteed hit the APOC that's in your hand. That's a lot of power. Like, that's no joke at all. That's a lot of power. But the stars have to align a little bit there. You have to have these cards in hand. If you don't have APOC in hand, if you never draw APOC, Modok's value is so low. The problem here is that discard cards, or decks rather, don't have a lot of beneficiaries. Like, there's Morbius, so Morbius would get a pretty good buff, I guess. You'd get like a whole bunch of power from Modok. And then APOC, that's great, guaranteed hit, and then on turn 6 I'm guaranteed to use him. Dracula's guaranteed to hit him. And then there's also Swarm, which I can get a lot of Swarms. If I already discarded a few Swarms, I get a whole bunch. But aside from those combinations, there's not really too much else. Maybe Wolverine, he gets thrown out there, but that's kind of which is why I don't think we see too many discard decks in the meta. There was the Lockjaw Cycle deck, which was pretty good, but that one might be risky with Modok because you don't want to always discard everything. You want to have something to cycle. So maybe it's okay, but maybe it comes out at a bad time. It'll be hard to tell. Again, 2 stars, but conditional 3 or even 4. I'm in that range. I don't know exactly where I feel about this card. Another scenario where Modok might be insane is in a Hela deck. And you're probably wondering, well, Drew, that doesn't work because you're going to discard Hela. No. Wait a second. If I play Invisible Woman and then I ramp, let's say I play Invisible Woman on turn 2, 3, or 4, whatever. And then on turn 5, I play Magic to create Limbo. And then I play Hela at the Invisible Woman location. And then I play Modok Modok to discard my entire hand, which is just jam-packed full of crazy high power cards. And then Hela's going to reveal at the end of the game and resummon all of those cards that Modok discarded. Like, that could be a wild turn of events. And it's not that far of a stretch from what Hela currently does with Invisible Woman. Maybe you don't try to extend the game in a Hela deck, but hey, I feel like that could be something. You could also look at playing Wave to cheat Hela out early. It just has to be tucked behind the Invisible Woman, so it's super reliant on that. So I don't know if that's very consistent. And also, we have to consider that in the future, if anything gets printed with the discard tag, it's a buff to Modok essentially, especially if they benefit from being discarded. The main reason I'm putting it at 2 stars is because I don't think it's worth buying. The season pass is heavily revolved around the main card. In the last few seasons, we have seen Zabu, which has been insane in creating so many decks. Silver Surfer is just like one of the better cards in the game right now, with some of the best decks are made with Silver Surfer. And even before that, we had Black Panther. So that was like 3 months of pretty good cards for the season pass. Now, there's been some absolute busts. Like if we look at Spider-Man Miles Morales, that wasn't very good. Nick Fury had his own season pass, which wasn't great. So not every season pass has to nail it out of the park, but it does heavily influence if you should buy the season pass or not, depending on the card, because that's, in my opinion, the main value of the season pass. But when I was thinking about that, I was also thinking, well, a lot of new players that are just getting into it maybe for their first season see Modok as a card, and maybe they want to build a discard deck, and it actually works really well in a cheap discard deck. So this is using just series 1 and 2 cards, and I feel like this is a pretty legit deck. You can use Modok to discard your APOC and your Swarms and get Morbius all buffed up and stuff. You're doing the thing. You just don't really have Dracula, which would be a nice add to this deck. Like if I was actually running it myself, I would add Dracula, but I feel like this could be competitive. So it's a fun option, I think, for series 1 and 2 players. But overall, like in the meta, like if you have a full collection or close to, it's impossible to have a full collection practically, but if you have close to a full collection, I don't know if you end up running this in your discard package, but we'll see. Time will tell. I'm not knocking this card off. 2 stars is a bit low, but anyways, let's get to the next one. All right, now we got Kitty Pryde. Dude, this card is sick. This is insane. I almost gave it 5 stars for a few reasons, which we'll get into, but this actually got changed from its original datamine. It used to be just, you can return this to your hand. Period. That was it. And honestly, that was good enough. They just gave it +1 power each time you do that effect. Each time you pull it back to your hand, which by the way costs you nothing. As long as you have 6 cards in your hand, then you can pull her back. If your hand's full, then you can't. So I don't know. I think that's pretty insane. Like if you have the vanilla stat line of 1, 2, but the potential to get to, like if you play this on 1, you can pull it back on 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's 5 power. That means she can get to 1, 7 just by pulling her back to the hand, playing her again, pulling back to the hand, playing it again. And like, sure, there's disruptive things. There's Killmonger that exists that could probably snipe this relatively easy. Yes, you could dodge it by pulling it back, but I think the player playing Killmonger could probably predict when you're going to play it again, because if you're playing Kitty Pryde, you probably want to bounce it back and forth, back and forth. But this works perfectly in the Bounce Bros deck, which I am now lovingly calling the Bounce family. It's a great time right now, but I think it's actually like a much better deck with this card, because some of the inconsistencies is not being able to bounce cards back so that you can play them. Sometimes you just end up playing all your 1-drops relatively early, and then you're kind of stuck in the mid game with this deck, in my experience anyhow. So I think with this, it's just like, oh, I always have something I want to do. I want to be doing this. I can do it all the time. Angela, 2 power, 2 power, 2 power. Meanwhile, Kitty Pryde's getting buffed. It's just insane. Also, if we end up with Collector and Bishop out there, they're getting power. It's just everything's growing in power every time you pull Kitty Pryde back and forth, back and forth. So I think this card's nuts. But then I thought, you know what? It's not just nuts in this deck up here. It's not just nuts with these cards in combination. It's crazy by itself. I think Kitty Pryde's just a good card to be running, because you can just like pop it back to the hand, throw it back where you want. Maybe Occasion showed up because you played it at an unknown location. It shows up and it's like the negative zone, and you're like, oh, geez, I don't want to have a card there. Get back in my hand, go elsewhere. I'll play you elsewhere. So it's like pretty good. And then it's like way better than any other 1-drop power-wise. If you can play it like turn 4 and then bounce it twice, that's a 1/4. Like what? That's crazy. That's like Ant-Man but no condition essentially. You do have to have the available space, so maybe sometimes you get space locked, but I imagine you're probably running the deck that has enough available space. So I feel like that's manageable enough, right? So I don't know. I just feel like this card is very, very good. Now it's going to probably cost 6K tokens when it comes out. Is that worth it? Probably not. Nothing's worth 6K tokens because that is like a full grocery for a week. So I don't know if I can justify that, but it's a pretty cool card. I'm excited to play with it when I eventually can, or when it comes to the game, right? We don't actually know when these are coming, by the way. This isn't anytime soon. This is not next season. Modok, the other guy, he was next season. This one, we don't know. Could be months. But this is her current datamine version, and I'm excited to try her out. Let's get to the next one. And then the last one I got for you guys, the last real one anyways. I got a few more things, but we got Nimrod. Nimrod's wild, dude. He's a 3-star. That's what I'm giving old Nimrod here. I think Nimrod is actually okay. Kind of weird, though. He's a 5/5. When this is destroyed, add a copy to each other location. So it's similar to Arnim Zola, who destroys something and then adds copies, but it's Nimrod who wants to get destroyed and add copies of himself elsewhere. So they're kind of similar, and I originally thought this would be a good combination, but I'm starting to realize it's not really, because it's not an on reveal. I thought it was on reveal, add a copy to each other location, so they don't work together that well. But I did think they would work decently in this deck up here. Just if you can get a lot of buffs on Nimrod and you Arnim it, and then you at least get 2 copies elsewhere, or you Carnage it, or you Venom it, or whatever else. But the main combo here is Wong, Black Panther, Arnim Zola, and then you can still kind of have those other alternate options. Maybe it's better to ramp into Nimrod and just destroy it a whole bunch. Because the thing is, the copy is going to likely, don't hold me to this, but I'm feeling like it will keep its ability. So if you destroy the copy, then you're going to get 2 more at the other locations. And then if you destroy those 2 copies, then you're going to get a whole bunch of Nimrods, and then it's just cotton candy everywhere, because that's what this guy makes me think of. So I don't know. I think that'd be pretty insane. And then you got Shuri here, who's a 4-cost card, going to double the power of the next card you play. You double Nimrod, it's 10, and then you somehow destroy it after that, and boom, that's 10 power at each location. That's 20. I don't know if that's all that good. The problem here is he not only needs a setup, but he also needs to be destroyed. So there's 2 conditions to activating this ability. If you play a 5/5, you are toast. That is just brutal. So maybe 3 stars is honestly a little bit too generous when I was giving poor Modok 2 stars. Maybe I should swap those around now that I really think about it. But hey, like I still feel like we could get a lot of Nimrods out. If you string together just a few destroys, it could be insane. You could get some wild combos, I think. And it just kind of fits in a destroy package. It's just a little expensive. That's what's really holding this card back, but rightfully so. You could just get absolutely crazy. All right, and then we have these 2. Now, I didn't even want to put these in. And actually, I've seen these for a while now. They've been datamined for a while. I didn't want to talk about them because they're not real, everybody. These are not real cards. I refuse to believe that they are real, but people have been talking about them, so I kind of want to just bring it up. The reason I'm saying they're not real is because their effects are insane and they have no stat line, and the art is incomplete. Loki doesn't even have a name, so this is Loki right above my head, and then you got Gorr there with like the not complete title. Now this is kind of like what we saw actually with Null. He had that same title before he was released in his datamine version, and then he got released and he had similar art. Maybe these are the cards, but there's no shot that you got a 0/0 destroy all 6 cost cards wherever they are. No. Why? No, that'd be terrible. Maybe Loki is 100% fake. I don't believe it. This is like a Loki illusion. It's totally to his name. He should have a bunch of different datamine versions. That'd be such a great troll by Team Second Dinner. But anyways, this is just not real. On reveal, swap hands with your opponent. Are you kidding me, dude? That's Mindscape on a stick. No shot would that be a 0/0. That'd be the worst thing ever. That'd be the worst card printed ever. Who likes Mindscape when you get to switch your hand on turn 6? Imagine your opponent did it to you willingly and they just run a bunch of trash in their hand, and then they just wait to swap it with you on like turn 5, and then it's like, I got all the good stuff for the next 2 most crucial turns of the game, and you have Jack all. Like, no way, no shot. This is brutal. Loki cannot be printed like this. There's no shot. But 0/0 is definitely not going to happen. I don't even know what stat line. I don't care. I don't want this in the game at all. I think it'd be really bad. Don't even make this a 6 cost. Just no swapping of the hands. Nobody really wants this, I don't think. Or if they do, I don't think they've played Mindscape enough. So anyways, these are not real, but I do have some real locations that'll be coming up. And here we go. We got these 3 locations that were data mined. These were a little bit of a bonus surprise to me. I didn't see these coming, but they're always welcomed. A couple of these are feeling, or if not all 3, are feeling like they're coming in February. We'll see. So we got the Quantum Realm. This star rating, by the way, is just based on fun because they're locations. They're mutual effects, right? So the Quantum Realm is when you play a card here, set its base power to 2. So I thought that was pretty interesting. It really cuts the knees off of a lot of the high power stuff. But that's probably okay because in the last season, or at least in the November season rather, with Black Panther, we had a lot of doubling and high power stuff. So maybe just reducing the power and benefiting some of those smaller cards is a good thing. It's kind of crazy with Leader maybe or something like that, but hey, whatever. But I think that's a pretty cool location. Interesting to try out, and we'll see how it feels. I'm sure there's some crazy combos. I haven't thought about it too much detail just yet. But then we got Camp Leahy. Add a random 3-cost card to each player's hand. This is junk to me. I almost gave it 1 star, but I was like, well, you know what? Sometimes the vanilla ones are just okay because they're not affecting my game too deeply. And I don't think this is. Like a 3-cost is just going to end up being whatever. It probably won't make or break the game. I'm sure there'll be the odd scenario where they get Patriot and they have 2 Patriots for the Patriot deck or whatever. But for the most part, it's just, you just shrug your shoulders and go, okay. It's kind of like Daily Bugle a little bit, except Daily Bugle at least gives you information on what your opponent's running. This is just totally random. Anything random is just lame. So I don't know. It's just a whatever location to me. So that one's there. And then we got the Sacred Timeline. This one's insane. I don't know even where to begin with this, but cards must be played here if possible. Cards must be played here if possible. What? So you're saying that I can't play at anywhere else unless I filled this location, which is pretty cool. And actually, one of the best things about this, despite me, I love destroy decks, okay? But this is actually one of the worst locations for destroy decks because it's really hard as a destroy deck to fill a location. All your stuff wants to destroy itself or other things. So you end up like not being able to fill this, and then that's the only location that you can play at. I imagine if you're playing like a zoo deck, you could fill this really quickly, and because it's not possible anymore to play there, you could start to play at the other location. So I think it's great, but it's super limiting. I feel like a lot of the time it's going to be triggering, and it's just going to be an instant retreat, kind of like the one that shuffles random District X, I think, random cards into your deck. It's like, what the heck? It just doesn't work with what I wanted to do, and now I can't play my deck, so I'm out. So I feel like there might be mixed feelings, which is why I gave it 3 stars. But I think it's pretty cool. I think that's a pretty neat one. That in the Quantum Realm, I'm here for. But anyways, guys, that was the data mines from this latest patch. As always, I'm always going to keep you guys updated whenever data mines drop. So be sure to subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate it. And I will catch you guys next time.